Hello, BookTube, and welcome to another weekly reading vlog. Well, I've got a bit of a cold, sore throat, cough, etc. So apologies if I end up coughing during the middle of this video. For those same reasons, I'm going to do my best to keep this relatively short. I want to talk about a few things, but I'll try and keep this relatively short because no point doing a long video where I'm just going to cough the whole time, huh? So these are the books I've been working on this week. I'll talk about those more in a moment. I also did one travelogue video earlier this week. This was another one of those unplanned things. I was walking with the family where we were waiting for photos to get developed, and just took some quick video of the parks we happened to be walking through for whatever that may be worth. I'll link to that in the description down below. This week, working on the Linguistic Wars by Randy Allen Harris, Journey to the West, Volume 2, and Buddha by Tezuka Osama, Volume 8, and almost done with this. So I would expect a review of this sometime this week. Excuse me, there's that cough. I do have a bit of a book haul this week. Was in a bookstore on Friday evening. And sorry, I know this camera is going to show everything in mirror image, but this is Old British and Irish Legends, or children's stories from Old British and Irish legends. This is an odd one. It's got a look here like this is an old classic, and the illustrations look like they're from something from the 19th century, and there are some ones in full color that also look really old school, like this one here, and you can see they're definitely going for the old school classic look here. But as far as I can tell, I haven't researched this in depth, but I did Google this, and I Googled the author. This was just written in 2022. The author, J. Emmerson-Hicks, is a living person, not an old 19th century writer. The illustrations here, I can't find any place where the illustrations are sourced. I think the illustrations are also from the 2022. Oh, actually, sorry. I'm gonna have to Google that. But it appears to be a recent book that is deliberately trying to pass itself off as an old classic. Although I assume that the old British and Irish legends that it's retelling here go back farther, so that those may be the original stories might be older, but this volume here is apparently recent. So I say this every time I buy a new book, but I've got so many unread books on my bookshelf now that it's really getting a little bit irresponsible to continue to buy new books, especially because living out here in Vietnam, I know that whenever we make a move, whenever that ends up being, I'm not going to be able to take my books with me. But at the same time, when English books are hard to come by, or at least specific books, so when you see something in the bookstore that sparks your interest, you never know if it's going to be in the bookstore again next month or next week. So sometimes if there's something you might be wanting to read down the road, I just buy it. So I pick that up, and if I decide to, if I end up reading it later, I'll talk more about that when the time comes. Excuse me. And then on to the Linguistic Wars by Randy Allen Harris. So I finished off, where was I? I think I was on page 36 last time. So I finished off chapter 2, and I'm into chapter 3. I hope I wasn't too harsh on this book last week. I found the reading I did this week pretty enjoyable, actually. And Randy Allen Harris is a talented writer, and he writes in a very witty way that was evident in a couple of passages in the sections I read for this week, where he's infusing a lot of humor into his descriptions of linguistic processes, and also his descriptions of linguistic scholarship. So it's the wit in this book is much appreciated. The problem is, and I think this is something I said last week, he doesn't really have enough space to describe what he wants to describe to a lay audience. I'm sure for people in the field, they must be getting much more out of this book. But I think for people who are not in the field, the descriptions of what's going on is not sufficient. But I'm not sure that can be helped, because he talked about in his introduction to the second edition how his publishers balked at the huge manuscript he had and how they helped him whittle it down. And so when you whittle down stuff, you lose the space to fully describe things for an audience that needs everything fully described. That being said, though, I'm following him so far. I fully expect to get lost in the middle, just like I did with the first edition. But so far I'm tracking with what he's saying. I'm up to page 80 now, into chapter 3, Generative Semantics, the Model. I do also feel like, now this is subject to memory, so keep it with a grain of salt, but as far as I can remember, the first edition did not kind of explain what was so captivating about Chomsky's grammar at the time. From the second edition, I feel like I really have a good idea of why Chomsky's grammatical theories captured the imagination of the linguistic field. It talks, I don't know. It's always dangerous for me to try and summarize this on these videos, because in the book he spends several pages explaining this, but basically Chomsky had worked out like this mathematical formula for grammar, or a formula for grammar that appeared to be mathematical. Now, different people would take different issues of it, and that's gonna be what makes up the rest of this book. But when it first came out, it really excited everyone's imagination. One of the people quoted talks about a gyrogearloose thrill of being able to just kind of work with this grammar machine where you fed sentences in one part and they came out the other in these perfect formulas. Because, I feel like for all the stuff I've read on Chomsky over the years, I never really understood what it was about his grammar theories that took the linguistic world by storm. And I feel like I'm finally kind of getting a handle on it here. And like I said last week, this is essentially a completely new book. The second edition is the chapter headings are the same, but everything is rewritten. So it's like going over some of the same ground, but from a completely different perspective. So if you've read the first edition and haven't read the second edition, and if you're interested in this kind of stuff, definitely check out the second edition. All right, next, Journey to the West. So I think last week I had finished up one of the adventures, and then this week I was reading chapter spent the bulk of the week just on chapter 40 and 41. So about page 900 to 943, which is a new adventure here. So the Journey to the West is a Buddhist monk who's traveling west to get the scriptures, accompanied by a pig, a monkey, a friar sand, and a dragon disguised as a horse. So as they're traveling through this mountain, there's a demon in this mountain who realizes that the monk is the reincarnation of the golden cicada and wants to eat his flesh. Because if you eat his flesh, you would live forever. Now, this is reminiscent of earlier things that had happened in this book, where there are other demons who wanted to eat the monk. But I had been warned ahead of time that this book was very repetitive, so I just kind of rolled with it. But then the demon disguises himself as a boy, and the monkey's not fooled by it, because the monkey can see right through and realizes it's a demon. But the monk is fooled by it and thinks that the boy is really a boy in trouble. And the boy gives this whole sob story about how robbers killed his family. And he's tied up in a tree. It's really just the evil demon in disguise. So the monk orders the monkey to carry the boy. And the monkey knows it's an evil demon, but he has to carry it because his master ordered him. And then the boy knows that the demon knows that the monkey has seen through his disguise. So the demon orders he uses a magic spell to get special winds to weigh down the monkey's shoulders. And this is almost exactly the same things that happened earlier in the book, where there was an evil demon disguised as an old person. It was as an old person instead of a boy that time, but fooled the monk, didn't fool the monkey. Monk ordered the monkey to carry the evil demon on his shoulders. Monkey wasn't happy about it. The evil demon used magic to get the monkey weighted down. So I had been warned before starting this book that it was very repetitive. That was something that people said about it. But I didn't realize it was going to be so specifically repetitive. And I hope that this isn't a sign that there's going to be a lot of very specific repetition later on in the book, because who needs that, right? But that being said, from there it did take off in a different direction than the previous one. So the demon turned himself into a whirlwind. He blinded everyone with a dust storm, took the monk back to his castle. The monkey tries to fight him, but the demon controls fire. So the monkey goes to the ocean to get the dragon kings. The dragons are always living underwater in this book for whatever reason. I always picture dragons as living in caves and mountains, but I guess in Chinese mythology they were always living in the water. He gets a bunch of them to come, and then when he fights the demons again, he calls on the dragons to douse the fire with their water. But it turns out that the demon's fire isn't a natural fire, so it can't be doused with that water. And then the demon sets the monkey on fire, and the monkey jumps into the cold river to escape from the demon. But when he does that, I guess the shock of going from being on fire to in the cold water causes his soul to depart from his body. And it's implied that he's like kind of dead, although the monkey's supposed to be immortal, so I don't know how this all works. But the pig and Friar Sand are able to revive him and I guess coax his soul back into his body or something like that. So it's not permanent. And then the monkey tries to fight the demon again, and he uses some sort of trick where he changes his form and disguises himself as a bundle of rags, which some of the little demons carry into the cave. And then I think that's where I've left it off now. So the monkey is in the cave in disguise, and there are 6 warrior demons who are going to fetch the demon's father, and then yeah, that's where I am over here. So, like I said, I'm not going to make it a long video. I guess 15 minutes could be considered long by some people. But if you're used to me rambling, you know that 15 minutes for me is relatively restrained. So I'm going to turn it off here.